Alright guys, so here's a little bit of an update hardware wise. There you go. Those are our two NAS drives. Let me get a good focus in on those. There you go. Of the actual hardware of the rig, I've done a little bit of spring cleaning here, I guess you could call it. There's still some dust in here. This is just really to get it up to working order. So this computer was essentially at the point where it was in a retired state, where it really wasn't going to see any more action other than probably an office PC. And even though for an office PC you can get much better stuff nowadays, very cheap with on-die graphics from Intel and AMD and stuff. You can go much simpler. You don't have to have even this kind of stuff in here anymore, and you can just get by better with a much better power envelope and also much better features of the newer chipsets. But for our NAS, this is very, very good stuff. We've got a 3 GHz Intel E8400 sitting here with 6 MB of level 2 cache. So this is pretty strong. 2 times 2 GB of DDR2 800 memory, giving us 4 GB in a dual channel configuration. So that's not really the best setup for a NAS nowadays. 8 GB in a dual channel setup, maybe even more, would be better. But since we're going with a simple RAID 1, this should be more than enough to be able to handle all that. Way more than you would get if you bought one of these pre-built from Synology or Buffalo or Western Digital, until you start spending upwards of $800–900. And since the PC is here and not being used, you could consider that pre-purchased or paid off. You know, we've gotten its life out of it. So at this point we have most of the hardware is for free. What we did spend money on is those two Western Digital Reds right there, and those are each 2 TB. And RAID 1 will get 2 TB of storage, so even though you have 4 TB of total actual space, they're going to mirror each other. We have drive A and drive B, and if one of these fails, we're going to replace it as fast as possible. The RAID will then copy the good drive back to the new drive, and you will have your redundancy back. This is not an actual backup, okay guys? This is just a step to avoid failure at this point of drives. So if these things end up working really hard, which killed one of my externals because I treated it like a server drive, these things will hold up a lot better, and you have 2 points that would have to fail for this thing to go down. And if you're very proactive about it, such as you see one drive either start to make noise or start to flag errors and stuff like that, you'll be able to go and replace one of those, copy your RAID over, and if you're really worried about it, once you have rebuilt your RAID array, you can even throw in a 3rd drive or even replace the other drive that was probably on its way out. But this is just a level of redundancy. That's why they call it RAID, redundant array of independent disks. That just helps, with an offsite backup, which is essentially what this is going to be in the end. Now this is obviously, it could be done better. We've got a 9800 GT Eco in here, so you can see there's no PCI Express power going to it. PCI Express power other than the actual PCI Express slot, as you see in there. This card specs in under 75 watts, under maximum TDP, but it's not ever going to even come out of idle speed. So I'm guessing it'll probably consume around 17 to 25 watts most of the time. The Intel chip will probably end up pulling about 70–80 watts during medium usage, and when it's just sitting there, even though it doesn't downclock, the whole system should consume about 100 watts, maybe a little bit more, considering we do have 2 of these baller ass hard drives in here. Right now I've only got 120mm fan, and that's really all it's going to need. It's going to sit in a very well ventilated room with good thermals, and it will be a relatively dust-free environment. So I've cleaned it up as good as it can possibly be right now without spending more time than that's worth on this thing. Again, this is a simple RAID, simple NAS, and this is really just something that I'm toying with before I start spending buttloads of money on a more complex ZFS RAID style build up on my next build, which will have probably 5 or 6 of these Western Digitals in there in a complete different configuration for RAID, which will then require double the RAM at least, if not more. And the 3 GHz dual core is probably enough for any free NAS application, but we're probably going to go with something like a Haswell i3 or maybe even an i5. The i3 would have ECC, the i5 wouldn't, but would have a lot more power. to crunch stuff, but I think even the i3 with hyper-threading and about a 3 to 3.5 gigahertz clock speed should be able to push any RAID that you could possibly come up with. And it wouldn't even need a graphics card at that point. It would be on-die graphics through an HDMI out in the back, which you didn't disconnect once it's all set up and running. And then what you can do is put in the PCI Express slot a RAID card to control the more complicated RAID setup. But that will be later in the year with some more time and some more money spent. But first, we're going to do something simple, and this is essentially going to back up a lot of my movies and music and some of my recordings and all that kind of stuff. Just have a nice, neat place close to the router and not in my room to store stuff. If you have any questions on what I've done here, let me know and I'll answer those in the comments below. The entire specs will be in the comments below as well, the description. So the next step would be to finalize, get my SATA plugs connected to the motherboard, and to get power to these drives, and then put a temporary CD-ROM drive in here to install FreeNAS off a disk, which will end up on a USB thumb drive located right here in the back area, right around there. And that will just sit there, and the CD-ROM will just be disconnected, and that gap will just be open for more airflow. But essentially, I will list the specs and all that in the description below. The procedure for installing this, there are so many millions of videos on how to install FreeNAS on a system that if you don't know how to do it, I can help you with it, or you can just Google it and look it up on YouTube. But there are better videos out there than what I would even be able to produce, in my opinion. People who have more experience and so on and so on. So just go and check those out. And once this thing is up and running, I will give you an update on the status. And I'm going to throw a bunch of data on this thing, and it will be connected through a Gigabit port off the motherboard straight into the router. So I'll probably have about 130 megabytes of throughput on a good day. And I'll do that and plug my external drive into another hardwired computer and just let it transfer for overnight, I guess, maybe even longer. I've got about 2 terabytes. I'm going to fill this thing up probably in about a week. It's really just to get a backup of a backup right now. Alright, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.